последние минуты перед взрывом.
Ok, d'accord, j'ai le pneu crevé.
So here I'm driving a sidecar, which is a little bit like the best way to get around the steppes. So we're headed for Central Asia, to one of the biggest countries of the world, but also one of the least known. This place for 70 years was under Soviet rule, and they used it pretty much as a dumping ground for nuclear tests, for building huge prisons, gulags here, and also launching space rockets. Anyway, since 1991, this place got its independence, and now it's one of the richest countries of this region. So welcome to Kazakhstan, one of the craziest countries on the planet. Whoa! This is challenging, I'm telling you, driving this thing.
It's probably most famous for the character Borat, but Kazakhstan is the 9th largest country in the world. Located near Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, it's also a strategic stronghold for today's superpowers. And I had to come to see for myself.
So, dark glasses, a convertible, luxury buildings, and lots of sun. You could think I'm in Las Vegas or Miami, but I'm in fact in Astana, the new capital of Kazakhstan.
In 1997, Astana became the capital after President Nazarbayev declared that it should be placed in the middle of Kazakhstan. A move designed to attract more native Kazakhs into the city and push out ethnic Russians.
Now I'm going to go meet a man who knows just about everything about this city.
Our tour guide through this wonderland is Sagandik Zamulatov, part of the team that designed the new Astana.
So it must be a little bit like God, no? To plan out a whole city like that?
Well, for me, I had the impression that this was the opportunity to fulfill all my creative potential. I could do all the projects I wanted to do. And as you say, God offered me and my colleagues the possibility to do whatever we dreamed of doing.
So how did things work during the Soviet times?
But during Soviet times, we had 1, 2, or 3 years for designing. Well, first we designed the projects. Then we waited for approval. It took a long time. And then the construction method was slow and weak. Construction was 5 to 10 years late. During Soviet times, we were used to that.
Not anymore. In the 14 years since Astana became the capital, almost the entire city has been created from nothing. The population has doubled in the past 15 years and is expected to double again by 2030.
So what was there here before? Because it's hard to imagine. I mean, this looks like a city, so was it completely empty or what?
So instead of this, there was an airport here, where people were practicing skydiving. So this place was like the steppe. And I used to take a plane to do my jumps here. None of these buildings were here.
There's nothing here, no?
Nothing.
And what's this?
Well, this building is called Khan Shatir, which means Emperor's Tent. Well, this kind of tented roof was used in ancient Kazakhstan.
были в древнем Казахстане.
But there's nothing ancient about what's under this tent. The Khanchatir Entertainment Center, also known as the world's tallest tent, took 4 years and $400 million to build. This feat of engineering is home to an indoor beach with exotic plants from Spain and imported sand from the Maldives.
It's crazy, no? This beach here in
Yes, this is high quality sand. People come here to relax, and children swim.
But is it a little bit like Dubai or what?
Yeah, it's a small Dubai. People don't need to go to Dubai. They can have their holidays here. You like it here?
Yeah, we love it.
You see, she says she loves it here.
This is good.
Very good.
And so in winter outside it's cold, no? And here it's always good?
Очень холодно.
Yes, it's very cold during the winter. So we need these kinds of little beaches for the people to enjoy.
With the sand out of our shoes, it was on to the mini monorail.
So,
Speak English, French.
So you speak English, French, Spanish, German?
Deutsch, no?
Nine. Okay, so I mean, Kazakhstan is changing very fast, no? From Soviet times to now modern. Psychologically, what's happening in this country?
No, во-первых,
Well, first of all, it's true that after Soviet times, Kazakhstan started to develop very quickly.
значит, идет
We started intense modernization of the economy and quality of life.
меняется психология.
People's expectations changed.
Всего. Мы
Well, it's because we have opened ourselves to the world.
всему миру,
It's like we're starting to live in a new way.
мы как бы начинаем по-новому жить.
The Bayterak building is perhaps the most symbolic feature of Astana's skyline. In addition to the observation deck, at the top of its 105-meter tower, there is also an aquarium, an art gallery, and something a little unexpected.
And this, what is this?
This is a cast of the president's palm, which symbolizes life of Kazakhstan's new capital city. When Kazakhs build a house, the chief, as a protector, impresses his palm to make sure this home will have peace forever. This is our national anthem.
President Nazarbayev has instructed his architects to create a city with buildings reminiscent of others around the world. The presidential palace looks suspiciously like another White House I know. Yet, that endless Kazakh steppe lurks relentlessly at the edge of town.
So I must say that there's a little bit of a cult of the personality here of the president in this country. Obviously it's not as bad as some Soviet leaders had it in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but you still certainly have that here. What does he represent? The president? The president? Wait, okay, we understand. You have to put your head on it.
For all Kazakh people, the president or any other head of the nation is like the father of this country.
What's this?
This old beat-up plane will take me to my next destination. We're traveling more than 1,000 kilometers directly south of Astana. And this time, my guides have brought along guns.
So, today is June 1st, and it's the opening of a special kind of hunting season here in Kazakhstan. I'm here with a special unit of the police, and they're tracking one of their favorite prey, which are drug dealers. So, right now we're flying above the Chu Valley. So everyone in Central Asia knows the Chu Valley because this place is the largest, most important producing valley of marijuana, of weed.
Colonel Shopiran Zapapayev is chief of police and head of the drug enforcement agency here.
So, Colonel, is this one of the biggest drug trades in Asia?
More than 138,000 hectares of land in this area in southern Kazakhstan are filled with wild hemp used to produce drugs. Every year we carry out missions and confiscate over 10 tons of dope.
There is a limited police force to patrol this entire region, which is bigger than England. And there is enough land here to produce 145,000 tons of marijuana each year.
They call this the True Valley, so I thought it was an actual valley, but in Kazakhstan, apparently valley also just means flat area, so clearly this country is all flat. But what's amazing here is that you can smell in the air the smell of marijuana. It's very, very strong, very potent.
These wild cannabis plants have so far outsmarted all attempts to get rid of them.
So what you see here is these are small plants actually, because the colonel tells me that in September, the plants will be 2.5 meters high. These are huge, massive plants.
The counter-drug unit is underfunded, so they focus on the growing and harvesting periods, when traffic is closely monitored.
This is our special counter-drug unit. They keep a sharp eye out.
So how did, what is this weed indigenous from this region or what?
According to myth, during the times of the Silk Road, when the Silk Road went through the Chu Valley, an Indian caravan that reportedly carried contraband goods to the south of Central Asia was caught in a strong storm, and the caravan with marijuana fell to pieces. Some seeds remained here. Today, it grows here as a wild plant. This southern Chu hemp is considered a descendant of Indian hemp, but it's become perfectly at home here.
According to the colonel, many people, from 16 to 70-year-olds, come to the fields to harvest the marijuana.
Oh no, people are going to see the film and make fun of me.
What's your name?
Elikbayev. Yes.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime? For drugs? What happened?
I didn't do anything. They're still investigating.
Did you take drugs?
No.
You ever smoke it?
No, I grew up here.
Well, then why were you convicted?
Oh, it's a long story.
After being searched, the old man is let go. But dealing drugs in Kazakhstan is no laughing matter.
What are the risks that the dealers incur here in Kazakhstan?
Drug dealers take great risks. In Kazakhstan, the punishment for selling drugs involving minors or drug trafficking can be up to a life sentence.
And the marijuana does travel. Across the True River, away from the fields of weed, are roads where the drugs make their way to Europe. Here, cars are randomly stopped and searched by police and their trained dogs.
Well, I mean, the problem is that this region, Chu, is so huge. It's 400 kilometers long, 500 wide. And basically, the only way to really catch drug dealers is to do these checkpoints on the road. That's how they transport the dope out.
Apparently, this car looks like a good target for this policeman.
So I'm covered in marijuana basically. So I hope the dog is not going to jump on me. Let's check.
Search. 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 Good dog. Search.
Nothing this time.
So it's like they're guilty before you can see their guilt, yeah?
When criminals drive through the checkpoint, they feel anxiety. They try not to look as if they made an effort to hide something. They do not look in the eyes of the guards. While ordinary people calmly drive and openly look you in the eyes. Those who know they did something try to look away.
You're like guilty, they're joking.
Yes, as if they were hiding this way.
Finally, it looks like we may have found a drug trafficker.
No, that's chewing tobacco.
So it looks like dope, but it's not dope. It's like a chewing tobacco thing. So I think I'm going to leave my new cop friends here to do their checkpoints, because we still have a long way to go in the huge, immense steppes of Kazakhstan. I have to go this way. So this is what I was looking for. I know it doesn't look like much, like just a road sign, but actually it's not just any road sign, because it points here towards Kurchatov, which is quite a unique city, because for 60 years, well, it was the most secret city of the entire Soviet Union, a city that was listed nowhere on any maps and that no one could find except the scientists that were working here to develop the nuclear bomb.
До взрыва осталось 3 секунды. 1 секунда. Взрыв.
First lightning. A 22-kiloton nuclear bomb exploded at 7 a.m. on August 29, 1949, at the Semipalatinsk testing site in northern Kazakhstan. This successful first explosion led to an arms race between the Soviets and Americans as they tried to build up their arsenals. Not one of the 700,000 people living in the surrounding countryside was warned about the test. When the Russians took off in 1991, Kazakhstan was left behind as the world's fourth largest nuclear power. Named after the inventor of the nuclear bomb, Igor Kurchatov, this city once housed the 35,000 people involved in the atomic projects.
So I've just arrived at the National Center for Nuclear Research here in the Republic of Kazakhstan, and I'm here to meet the big boss. How do you do?
Meet Kaira Kadirzanov, General Director of Kazakhstan National Nuclear Center.
Papa of the atom. Atom Papa. So what happened in 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed? What happened here?
Well, it was a tragedy for this city because the Soviet military units went away. Kazakhstan was left with a nuclear test site.
Kazakhstan became one of the first countries in the world to voluntarily give up nuclear weapons.
The Soviets released this nuclear devil on our land. And now our job is to confine it as much as possible. To allow people who work in the region to use this land. Everything must be clean here. And there must be no threat to anyone. We have a symbol or slogan for our National Nuclear Center, from a national tragedy to a cause of national pride.
We have to be proud when we clean all this.
Yes.
Places.
Yeah, to scrub it all, yeah?
Yeah.
But in fact, the cleanup is far from over. Semipalatinsk is the only test site in the world where people continue to live. Sheep and cattle graze on the contaminated land. They are then eaten by locals.
Where are we here?
We're in the territory of the Semipalatinsk former nuclear test site, which was closed 20 years ago. It covers 18,500 square kilometers. About 500 nuclear explosions were detonated here, and I can't give you the precise figure.
Is this the place in the world where there's been the most nuclear explosions?
No, most were in Nevada. Here they fired about 500. Over there, more than 1,000 bombs.
We are traveling to Lake Balapan, also known as Atomic Lake, roughly 50 kilometers from Kurchatov. The lake was created when an underground nuclear test blew the top off a mountain. The resulting crater filled with water and is one of the most radioactive sites within the test area. Shepherds still water their sheep at the lake, not believing scientific warnings against doing so. And there is growing evidence that cracks in the rock bed have allowed radioactive materials to seep into the river Irtysh, that flows into Siberia and eventually the Arctic Ocean. Fish were introduced in the highly radioactive waters by the Soviets, and then local people were encouraged to catch and eat them.
This is my special, okay, so I just have to tell you guys that the director here doesn't wear any protective gear. Why don't you wear?
I'm professional.
You're professional? This Kazakh strong. I unfortunately am not professional, so I have to wear this whole gear here, so let me just show you.
Very good for hunting on rabbits.
Did you ever have to dress like this?
No.
Did you? No, never?
Accepted radiation levels should not be over 0.4 millisieverts. But as we walk toward the lake, the levels steadily rise.
This area is safe here, but if we go down here, it's bad?
Yes, it's worse over there, on the bank. Yes, it's beeping.
So, what would happen if I would go and jump in the water now? What would happen to me? What would happen?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. Ничего не надо. Вода чистая.
Well, the water's clean, no pollution. You can swim in it. However, it's dangerous to walk on the banks.
Really?
We can't stay here for very long, and Kyra takes me back to town. I am now traveling 150 kilometers east to the city of Semi, where an estimated 370,000 people live in an area contaminated by radioactive substances. Here, cancer rates are 33% higher than in the rest of the country. Dr. Tulekan Nurgamamatoff is in charge of the Perinatal Center number 1 in Semi. He is fighting every day to help people understand the problems they face, especially pregnant women who may give birth to babies with defects due to genetic mutations caused by radiation exposure.
Today we're undertaking a medical awareness campaign to encourage people, especially pregnant women, to come in for a consultation. For example, this girl hadn't seen a doctor before, but she saw our TV campaign and she came from Urzar. She traveled 800 kilometers to come here. If we observe any congenital anomalies, we'll recommend that she terminate her pregnancy. Of course, it is her decision. However, if we observe anomalies, we will strongly recommend that the patient terminate her pregnancy.
Why do you want to make genetic passports?
Genetic passports will allow us to see if a person has had chromosomal changes. It's possible to make genetic modifications, thanks to genetic engineering or genetic therapy. That's the reason why we need genetic passports. We'll avoid the birth of children with congenital diseases, which lead to them being invalids.
On our way to see the consequences of radiation, I wanted to ask the doctor about my experience at Atomic Lake.
Yesterday when I went to Atomic Lake, I wore my mask and thing, but the director of the Center of Nuclear Studies, he said it wasn't necessary. He wasn't wearing anything.
Of course, he should have worn that suit. Let's just say that he shows recklessness or sort of sick bravado. No, the rules have to be strict. They're made for our safety. And all of our problems come from these small, reckless acts. He should have changed. He should have worn the protective suit.
Here we are in the neonatal unit. Infant mortality here is 5 times higher than the average for developed countries. 1 in every 3 children born in the Semipalatinsk region has mental or physical defects. Embryonic defects are common, while cancer strikes teenagers and adults alike. About half the population suffers from immune system deficiencies.
So the director of the hospital asked me to come here. This is the orphanage of the city, where a lot of kids who were born with deformities come, or left basically by their parents here, because of all the radiations that are around in the region. Obviously, some of the images are pretty hard to stomach, but I think it's important to meet these children.
These children suffer primarily from Down syndrome and hydrocephalus, which is an excess fluid buildup in the brain. Simbat Abdikarimova is a neuropathologist at the orphanage.
How many children come here with these kind of malformations? Is it something quite common that you have?
This is something that's quite common here. Unfortunately, we have a lot of children with these kinds of severe pathologies. I'm afraid this will continue for 10 to 12 generations in the future. There's an accumulation of radioactivity for 500 to 1,000 years. The future scares me a lot. We'll be seeing a lot more of these genetic mutations.
These are genetic mutations, a chromosomal anomaly. This is what will appear in their descendants and be transmitted to future generations. And even if God saves him, when this child gets married, there's a probability that this anomaly will show up later on.
The environmental factors causing all this damage are slowly but tragically revealing themselves. The terrible legacy of a ruthless regime.
Look. Look at his feet. You see how they're deformed?
So, doctor, was your family touched also by this tragedy of radiation, or?
I was personally, and every other resident of the semi-region. We all have a negative opinion of the testing range. I'm talking like this because I've seen all of my relatives, my friends, my colleagues dying. Today, everyone who reaches 50 is faced with a countdown to death. Of course, all this is very painful. Of course, it's very difficult.
When I was younger in high school, they used to teach me that these marks you see here on the rocks were actually watermarks from ancient seas that have disappeared. But right now, whoa, I'm in a very special place in Kazakhstan. I'm facing what's left of the Aral Sea. And actually, 30 years ago, well, these marks would have shown me swimming right now in this sea. But it's receded enormously, and this is actually one of the worst ecological catastrophes of the 20th century.
It used to be more than 67,000 square kilometers, but the Aral Sea shrank to hold just 1/10 of its original volume. And by the 1980s, all 24 native species of fish had died. the fishing industry disintegrated. What was left in its place was a nearly 300-kilometer wide salt flat, infused with pesticides from years of agricultural runoff.
So, they built a dam a few years ago, and for the first time in 30 years, well, water is creeping back up. But, you know, only time will tell if this is a viable solution for the Aral Sea. Anyway, what you should really know is that this region is one of the main concentrations on Earth of the bubonic plague.
Here, on what was the edge of the Aral Sea, is the village of Agbasti. This used to be a vibrant seaside town, full of fishermen and visitors on holiday. At the laboratory here, they study a disease that to many sounds like something from another era, but is in fact still killing people around the globe. The plague samples studied here come from specimens gathered at the nearby salt flats. Dr. Gulsara Tolembe is a researcher and bacteriologist.
This is a very serious preparation, no? It's like, what is this? Why is it so serious?
Everything has to be covered. This is a protective suit because it's possible that there will be plague in the samples.
So, I mean, for me, the bubonic plague was this ancient curse of the gods that almost killed all of Europe. Does it? I didn't know it still existed.
Yes, in Kazakhstan, the plague still exists. Because a natural source of the plague and carriers of the disease live in our country, the great gerbil. And of course, those who transmit the disease, parasites, like fleas.
The bubonic plague kill in this region?
Yes, there have been lethal cases.
The actual plague cells that they are examining at this lab cannot be shown on camera for security reasons. If released in an aerosol form, some fear that the plague bacteria could possibly be used in a bioterror attack.
So what are some of the symptoms when you catch bubonic plague? What are the symptoms? How do you know it's happening?
A person suddenly gets ill. He gets a high fever, he starts to have headaches, his condition begins to worsen. If the upper limbs are affected, a cyst appears in the underarm area. If it's in the lower limbs, a cyst starts to grow in the groin.
To make this medical diagnosis, liquid samples are taken from the patient's cysts and treatment process begins.
So on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the most dangerous, how would you, what would the bubonic plague?
This plague is considered an especially dangerous one. It belongs to the first group of all infectious diseases, and therefore it would be a 10 on this scale.
10. The maximum, yeah?
Maximum.
So, is there anything more dangerous than the bubonic plague for man?
There are a few other diseases that belong to this group of dangerous infections: cholera and Congo-Crimean fever. These are the most dangerous diseases that belong to the first group. Anthrax is also one of them.
But the tragedy isn't only a medical one. The majority of the population left to seek work elsewhere, but a few stay behind and raise livestock.
So this was the sea, no?
Yes, the sea was here before. And now there's vegetation on the bottom, so the rodents came, our great gerbil. All the land is occupied by these colonies of the great gerbil because the water's gone. If the sea were still here, we wouldn't have these rodent colonies.
I see, so with no more water, so then there's more risk of bubonic plague, yeah? Okay.
Out in the salt flats, the home of the great gerbil colony and carrier of the disease. The Aral Sea anti-plague team fights to keep a pandemic from breaking out. For 3 months at a time, a zoologist, a bacteriologist, and a driver all live on the flats while they're on duty gathering samples and controlling the rodent population. This tent is their home away from home, with only a thin line of powdered insecticide separating them from the carriers of the bubonic plague. They say this is a protection zone, a place with no colony, a clean area.
A long time ago there was water here. That's why there are shells here.
Karasai Saimov is the deputy director of the RLC anti-plague station. And so the daily hunt for the great gerbil begins.
Whoa. Oh, regarde. What kind of animal is this?
Well, this is a great gerbil. It's going to die within 2 or 3 minutes. Then we'll take it out of the trap.
Okay. And here can the things jump on you and bite you or not?
No. When the rodents are alive, fleas don't jump from them. They don't leave. But when they're already dead, when the body's cold, then the fleas begin to leave.
The rodents don't transmit the diseases to humans, but animals from each colony are captured and killed so the laboratory in Ekbasti can check to see if they are carriers of the plague.
This is a huge area. It's very big. How do you go about to find stuff?
It's impossible to treat the whole area, so we just do it piece by piece.
But the fleas and ticks are the real hazard. It is through them that the plague is transmitted to humans. A flea can jump up to 25 centimeters, and a bite can be deadly.
Is it normal that they're all coming toward me? Why? Как?
Well, the ticks sense warm-blooded animals and humans. You must tuck it like this, so the ticks don't crawl and get inside. They'll not bite through socks or jeans.
Oh, I see.
When the skin is exposed, they'll bite you.
Hey, so this is a dangerous job that you guys are doing, no?
Конечно, опасная, очень опасная работа.
Now it's time to take action. We're heading off across the salt flats to find the great gerbil colonies that have been identified as having the disease.
So, Karasai has just found a plague, a place where there was some plague, and so now they've got this special unit here that's sent in to, I don't know, gas, I guess, the rat holes. That's what we're doing right now.
In fact, it's not gas, but a chalky powder insecticide called fipronil that is pumped into the rodents' holes and works to kill the plague-spreading fleas and ticks.
Does this kill the rats or not?
No, it doesn't kill the rodents.
What does it do?
It kills only the fleas and the ticks. The rodents stay alive.
Oh, okay. So what does it do exactly? What is the powder for?
Well, the powder, this white dust stays there. So when the rodents go in or out, the fleas dies from that poison. Ticks and fleas that are inside immediately die.
Whoa!
Hey, careful! You can fall.
So this is basically a job that will never end, no? It'll go on and on forever?
Well, this is our work, the way we do things. It's a really hard job.
Work with no end in sight, as the great gerbil continues to build colonies, reproduce, and provide a warm body for the fleas and ticks who crave their blood and spread the disease.
If you guys were not doing your job here, what would happen?
There would be a plague pandemic, and how many millions more would die because of this? Today we have planes, trains. So, if someone gets the disease, the plague, it will spread instantly.
The whole world, So, in a globalized world, the plague could go everywhere very fast, yeah?
In our contemporary world, some countries want to use the plague microbe for bioterrorism. In Kazakhstan, everything is secure.
A disease exacerbated by the Soviets' carelessness that the Kazakhs are desperately trying to control.
Oh, look how beautiful it is here. I don't know that I could take any more of this flat steppe of Kazakhstan. I had to see what the mountains look like around here. It's absolutely wonderful. But as usual, I didn't come here to do any tourism. I'm here to meet one of the last falconeers, these guys that hunt with falcons, which used to be the traditional sport in Kazakhstan for many centuries. I hope I'll find them.
Pavel Pfander is only one of about 40 officially recognized falconers in Kazakhstan. While national interest in the sport has been growing since the Kazakh gained their independence, falconry is simply no longer profitable, and poaching has put the Sakar falcon on the verge of extinction. The Soviets discouraged hunting with falcons because it was considered an elite sport.
Oh, it's incredible.
Hey! Hey!
I was expecting a Kazakh to come. But so, where are you from? You're German?
I was born here.
In Kazakhstan?
I'm German, yes.
Son of a deported person?
Exactly.
So how does a German Kazakh deported becomes a falcon?
I meet a man, a Kazakh, which came from China. He was my first teacher.
But what do Kazakhs think when they see you, one of the last ones doing the falcon?
It's very, very difficult because many of them are very, very jealous.
Jealous, yeah.
During the Second World War, Germans were among the thousands imprisoned in Stalin's gulags here in Kazakhstan.
Are these birds endangered or are they safe here in Kazakhstan?
No, it's very, very dangerous because after the Soviet Union was collapsed, there come people from Arabian countries,
Gulf states,
and they pay falcon for big money.
It's a beautiful bird.
They say one falcon costs $100,000.
So everyone
want to catch him.
In fact, there is a movement here in Kazakhstan to preserve this majestic bird. Wealthy Kazakhs come to charity events at the falcon hunting grounds to help raise money to save this ancient tradition.
Don't move. Do you think that I could hold it with the other glove?
Of course. Better you have
I take the glove, yeah. I'll go take the glove. Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, this is it. Okay, this is first time for me, huh?
Yes?
Yes?
It's one rule. You hold this horizontal. It's as a principle like ladybug. If you will hold like this, the falcon or another bird of prey will try to go higher.
I see.
And then as the last he will come here, and it's the eagle, he will go with the talon through your
okay. Aha.
So you hold very, very fast because he can fly.
Wow. It's amazing how light he is, huh?
Light, but falcon with weight of 800 grams can catch every bird. The speed is more than 300 kilometers per hour.
300 kilometers per hour?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, guys, this is the end of our adventures through Kazakhstan. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I mean, it's an incredible country, a very flat country too, but finally here we made it to the mountains. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed these adventures. I'm going to stay here a little longer with this incredible falcon and see if I can learn a few more things about it. Until then, I hope to see you somewhere else on the planet soon. Take care.